What type of school is always being overlooked when it comes down to academics, athletics, and financial needs? But it's always talked about when mentioning violence, poverty, rural areas, and things of that nature. Yes, the answer is public schools. Public schools are always looked over when it comes down to good things, but it's always talked about when you're mentioning all those bad things. Don't get me wrong, public schools do have a lot of issues, but there are good things that should cover those issues. Public school have many problems, but there are also problems inside of those problems that create these big problems. There are things going on that lead to these things. I attend North Nola High School, which is considered a public school. I have noticed, experienced, and researched how public schools get looked over my years of being in North Nola School District when it comes down to the needs and positive things going on within the school. Most of us are surrounded by public schools and know about these issues and are familiar with these issues. Today I'll be focusing on how public schools get overlooked and the things that define them. During my speech, I will discuss what is a public school, what are they centered around, what are the goods, and what the needs, and the ways to fulfill those needs. To get started, we will first look at what a public school is. According to the dictionary, a public school is a school that is ran off public funds, usually government imposed taxing. It is often controlled by a school board. Public schools are usually found in rural areas. So basically, all the money comes from the government. Okay, so now that you are aware of what a public school is, I will now discuss what is a public school centered around. In other words, what is most talked about. Most of the time, people look at a public school only like a violent place or the harsh behaviors of people or students in the school. This type of behavior helps give schools the title of being an unsafe environment for the students. Most of the time, they are in rural areas, so people see it as, oh, this school in the worst place ever. We can't supply the funds for that school or things like that. John Leo once wrote an article about the Rutherford Institute where it included a little snippet about the TJ West case in Kansas. That school had a zero tolerance policy, and the student, a 13-year-old, drew a picture of a Confederate flag on a scrap piece of paper. The school went overboard and sent the case to trial, and the student was suspended for racial harassment and intimidation. Those are the things that put public schools out there and make them look bad. I understand that the incident was horrible, but it could have been things going on that should have been done inside of the school instead of taking it out to the public. That's why people look at us in a bad way, because we don't try to handle the issues inside of the school instead of taking them out into the public, where people look at us as bad people and think that we're not doing our job inside of the school. That's why we are most talked about. Now that we have discussed the negative things, now let's talk about the positive things that goes on in public schools that no one seems to talk about. Well, it's concerning like academics and athletics. Well, the question is, people always ask, what are the goods in public school? Because they've never experienced or are made aware of the goods. Over these last few years in North Nola High School, they have been considered a beast, as others would call it, when it came down to athletics and academics. Every year since 2017, each graduating class has received over $1 million in scholarship money and has been accepted to these big time colleges and universities and has had a great undefeated season in football, powerlifting, basketball, and those sports. But we have been overlooked because of violence that has happened on campus over the years or years before. Every time people mention the school, they're like, oh, that's the school that had the shooting years before, but they're never looking at what's going on now. Those things shouldn't even be, still being discussed over the years, but it's now being discussed. They should look at the goods and not worry about the bad things that happened over the years, because these are a different set of students. There are many positive things that goes on in public school, but no one seems to notice it. The goods are things that people never seem to talk about. But there are a lot of needs in public school that no one seems to care about, mention, or even have a conversation about. Now we will look at one of the biggest needs in public school. I've always researched this topic because I always thought maybe we're just the school that's having this issue because of the area we in or the things that we have done. But come to find out, there is an issue everywhere. What the question is, what are the needs and ways to handle it? One of the biggest issues that no one seems to care about is the funding. Low funding causes public schools to experience teacher layoffs, big class sizes, and reduced student services in areas, to get extra help or special needing in after school programs and stuff like that. A Chicago teacher once stated, there are 28 seats, 44 students, it's 89 degrees, and there are 0 books. This is crazy. This is pitiful. The kids are coming to school to do what's right, and that is still not enough for them to receive funding. There is still not enough money for a student to have a chair to sit down. Is the kids not having the right resources to receive a good education not good enough? Why don't people see an issue with this? Public schools need to stop depending on the government to give them funds. I believe they should get out, apply for grants and do all that so that they could be receiving money on their own and not depend on the government. Now it's time to draw things to a close. Today I spoke to you about public schools. I have discussed the definition of public schools, the things people are hiding about public schools, the goods and the needs. My purpose today was to inform you. I hope I did just that. Thanks for listening.